Yeah, perfect. Okay. Well, it's been a couple of weeks since we last chatted. I think on the call last week, one of the things we had thought about was trying to get a person. We were trying to get Joe, who used to be with the team a number of years back, to come and talk about his work with Commit Boost that was recently added into one of the smart node upgrades. But I don't think that kind of lined up. I think Joe is no longer doing the contract work for Commit Boost, but still be helpful to take a look at that. But this week we're joined by Langers, and I think Mav might be joining us for a little bit as well too, to just kind of give a community update on a number of things. So maybe Langers, I'll pass it off to you to see if there's any topics that you want to cover. I've been seeing lots of conversations about maybe some of the scope design of Saturn 2. But I don't know if, and just from like Ethereum in a whole, there's a lot of changes about maybe the upcoming forks and some of the redesigns that are happening. I don't know if that's too far on the horizon to talk about, but any topics that you want to cover today? And I also open it to the community as well. If you have topics that you want to see addressed, please put them in the trading channel as well too. I'm kind of monitoring that. But Langers, any thoughts for you over topics that you feel is important to spend time with on the community today?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a couple of different areas, I guess. So in terms of the protocol development roadmap, that's going really well in terms of, and a big thank you to Noshua, who's on the call now as well, for helping out with driving this process actually. So yeah, there is a big kind of like research / design process going on at the moment in terms of speccing out the RPIPs for the next release. So this is Saturn 2. I think I put out an announcement, I think, a little while ago, to basically say that we're realigning the scope around rETH demand. So that's a big, that's kind of like the focus of the next release. And so that includes the what I'm calling kind of redemptions, but it's essentially exiting validators to meet withdrawal needs of rETH, and then also kind of performance benefits for rETH holders as well, a minimum standard for node operators. So they're kind of like the headline deliverables, and then there's a few other smaller kind of deliverables in there as well. And so they're being specced out, and from our side as well, kind of designing. So we're going through and making sure that we can, from a feasibility perspective, design and deliver what what the specs are kind of saying. So so there's a bit of back and forth with us and kind of like Noshua and a few other people in the research threads at the moment around how that's going to look essentially. So yeah, it's been a really good process so far. I unfortunately have been distracted with some business development stuff the last week or so haven't got back into it a bit. But Kane has definitely been working on the design side of some of this stuff the last 2 weeks. So it's been a really good process so far. There's some stuff on the DAO forum. Again, I need to kind of engage in that this week. But there's some stuff on the DAO forum around where we're at with some of those RPIPs. So definitely take a look at those if you haven't already.
Then just help me with kind of a timeline. I know you're still formulating like scoping design, but kind of in the ideal world, when when would you like to see the scope of Saturn 2 somewhat finalized? Like, maybe just kind of lay out just a little bit of the roadmap ahead.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think we are moving reasonably quickly. So I can't put a timeline on it just yet. I think we need to just focus on there are probably still some key decisions to just lock down. But once we've kind of got that mainly done, those kind of like key decisions done, then I think we're in a good place to then start to kind of guesstimate when we'll be able to actually deliver it. As I said, we're doing kind of a lot of the design work and a bit of the prototyping up front anyway. So like the development process is already kind of kicking off. But there's a difference between kind of like prototyping and obviously productionization, making sure it's actually at the quality that we need. So yeah, we're still a bit early for the timeline, but we're very close, I would say. We are, as I said, we just need to lock down a few of those key decisions, get some of these RPIPs in a state where they're fully formed, which that process is happening very quickly. So we should be able to sort that out quite quickly.
Okay, excellent. And then, I think maybe just stepping back for a second, there's certainly been kind of and at least in my opinion, a longer crypto winter than I somewhat recall. And I was seeing some threads and chats this morning about, protocol reductions and so forth. You just take a step back for a moment, looking at kind of rocket pool and rETH health and so forth there. Any thoughts or commentaries just on, longer term trajectory? You mentioned that, you really want Saturn II to focus on rETH value and so forth. Where do you see the overall health, and how does focusing on rETH, how does that play into it?
Yeah, I think well, there's probably a couple of things to break down there. So, I mean, focusing on rETH demand is very useful in the sense that we're obviously in this phase at the moment. We're in this transition phase at the moment where we've got mini pools and mega pools, and we would obviously like to migrate as many people over to mega pools as possible. First of all, because from a node operator standpoint, ideally they'll earn more money or be in a better kind of like situation. But definitely from a protocol perspective, we'll be in a better situation. So we're in this situation where we need to kind of like migrate people. We've also got the kind of like the benefits of just from a sustainability perspective and also like an RPL value perspective, we want people in mega pools so that we can so that the RPL value proposition comes into focus a lot more. With mega pools being activated and people getting kind of like the voter share, that really kind of like activates that value proposition. So that's something that we're very keen to kind of have happening. The validator queue is obviously a big issue that we're kind of like working through, and one of the things in this release is something to mediate that issue. So essentially what I'm saying there is that rETH growth has follow-on effects to protocol sustainability as well. We've also got the option to turn on protocol DAO funding through the commission, and so that could help us out in the future as well. So that's kind of like on the rETH growth side. I mean, in terms of like the protocol sustainability side, obviously an improvement in the RPL price would definitely help in that position. So rETH growth can help in that regard. On the other side, in terms of sustainability, I know that Dr. Duvis is doing some great work in terms of figuring out kind of like an RPL allocation split that can help to kind of sustain the protocol going forward as well.
Maybe that's a good segue here. And Dr. D, I see you here in the forum. I don't know if you feel comfortable coming on and sharing a little bit, but it does seem like that there's there's a couple of discussions going on that maybe between both of you might be able to allude and kind of clarify for everyone. Like one is, what do we do with RPL? And there's a couple of factors on RPL, both for mini pools and mega pools, right? One of those is RPL inflation. How much inflation should we allow the RPL token to inflate by? Because it's used as an incentive and it's also used to fund the DAO, right? And then, secondly, then is the proration of RPL, right? Like what percent should go to the DAO, what should go to the operators of that inflation. So there's kind of some growing discussions and proposals in that area. And then in the same sense for it, and I think this applies, unless I'm getting it confused in my head, this applies to megapools, which is, ETH rewards, right? Some of those ETH rewards were supposed to be based on RPL stake, and we'll see that here. We'll get to after this discussion about when will we actually see ETH rewards go to RPL stake. But there's also a thought about giving a percentage of ETH rewards to the DAO, right? To fund some of the DAO operations. So I don't know if I captured those, but I don't know, Langers or Dr. D, if you'd like to come on the channel and just chat a little bit about both of these. You've got some really good perspective. I don't know if Dr. D's listening. I see him in chat here for it, but I don't know, Langers, maybe if you want to share maybe your perspective first here. Oh, he's got Dr. D's got no mic at the moment. I'm seeing in chat, but Langers, maybe share some of your thoughts. And we might have lost Langers. I'm not hearing you. Yeah, thank you, Hallelujah. Yeah, no, Langers still no mic on you there for.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there, I got you now. Yep.
All right. Okay. Cool. So from a protocol roadmap perspective, what was kind of outlined in Saturn 2 was that we would reduce the RPL inflation at some point and reduce it down. I think the actual it was, so currently it's 5%, and I think the idea was to reduce it down to 1.5%. 1.5% is essentially removing the node operator reward part of the allocation, and then the 1.5% is essentially what we pay the DAO. So what we pay the IMC, the GMC, the reserve, and there's something else. Anyway, the ODAO. That's right. So it was basically going to reduce it down to that. Now, one of the things that that I know Dr. D is looking at, and hopefully I don't butcher this too much, but it is essentially to change those allocations kind of ahead of Saturn 2. This is mainly in response to the fact that, as you said, we're in this kind of crypto winter. It is a long and very deep kind of winter, probably further than anyone really expected, and so things like the GMC are need to be able to do their work in terms of promoting ecosystem and things like Saturn 2 research and all of this sort of thing, and they can't really do that at the price levels of RPL as it currently is. So we're looking at shifting the allocations and changing the allocations ahead of Saturn 2. So it's still kind of like reducing the node operator amount, not all the way down, but partially down, and then but keeping the inflation rate at 5% initially, and then giving that the reduction to the protocol DAO for funding, as I said, for funding things like the GMC for its like Saturn II research, for its business development efforts, for its there's a couple of operational expenses that as a core team we've kind of like asked the GMC to kind of deal with as well. And then potentially this is a kind of like an open discussion, but potentially with protocol development funding as well. So that's kind of what we've been working, or that's what has been kind of discussed so far.
Yeah, certainly, I serve on both the IMC and the GMC, but certainly there's been a lot of discussion on the GMC, I think, because it meets synchronously, on a Zoom call periodically here, and there's been a lot of talk about that, and I guess now for the community, and the discussion might be, and let me see if I'm inferring correctly what you're saying, is that that current discussion of it, and I posted it in trading here, the RPIP, I guess it's 46, that is kind of proposing these new inflation share allocations, right? Is that, Lingers, I think I'm hearing you say that if it's included in the design, or I mean, it's currently in the discussion of Saturn II, but you're actually proposing that these be done ahead of Saturn II, right? Like they're just protocol setting changes. And if we go through the correct governance voting procedures for this, that the DAO could establish these and implement them ahead of Saturn II. Am I inferring that correctly, or am I misunderstanding?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so the allocations and the inflation rate are all protocol DAO parameters, ones that we can just change using a PDAO vote. So they can be changed at any point. The idea is that we would change it before the upgrade. So not as part of the upgrade, but actually as a protocol DAO vote.
Okay, and then I guess maybe just a general question, right? Because I've been in lots of conversations with individuals about this, and I I think that there's support for this, right? But what would be the next steps? I know Dr. Doofus is very energized about this, and is kind of spearheading a lot of the conversation. And thank you, Dr. D, for your leadership in this area. But what are kind of the next steps to make this happen? It seems like this crypto winter again is getting much colder here, and finances are kind of getting to a point where we've got to do something to provide balance and sustainability to this. Like what do we need to happen in terms of next steps on this?
Yeah, so I think the idea is that so far it's been discussion in the governance threads around this, and just kind of like working out some numbers and that sort of thing. I think the next step is to have it on the DAO forum, which I don't know if it already is. I know it's imminent, that or quite soon. I don't want to put too much pressure on on Dr. Doofus, but there is a DAO forum post incoming in terms of again, discussion and sentiment vote, or sentiment poll, even I should say. The sentiment poll, how the normal governance process works is it's kind of like there's a sentiment poll for 7 days, I think it is, where and then if that passes or gets support, then we have an RPIP and I think that's what they're discussing in trading now, an RPIP and a vote, basically. I'd actually this is where it's a little bit confusing, because sometimes we have an RPIP for PDAO votes, sometimes we don't. So I don't know whether that's a thing we would do, but at the very least there's like the sentiment poll, and then there'll be an on-chain vote essentially. So someone will raise a protocol DAO vote, and then we'll just vote on that using the standard on-chain voting mechanism.
Okay, excellent. And then let me just maybe expand the let me pause here for a second and just see there's lots of people in the chit chat here. Anyone have questions over this that we've talked about? Let me pause here and get other folks to come to the mic or post in trading. Okay, I don't think I'm hearing anybody, but please interrupt if you do. So let me just expand this a little bit. Okay, so that's you know, a currently active discussion in which, you know, we might see the moves for governance and vote being made here in the imminent future, right? I'm thinking weeks to month, you know, time period, right? I mean, besides the mandatory periods, but there does seem to be a sense of momentum behind this to kind of implement this, right? The other thing that kind of comes up here is that, you know, we're expecting, you know, the mega pools, right? I guess, and we'll talk a little bit about a couple of things on those. But one of the things is that, you know, we're probably, I think, maybe 30 to 40 days away from the first mega pools actually coming active on the beacon chain, right? And a portion of the ETH rewards earned by those mega pools is going to be directed to you know, our RPL stakers, right, that are on there. Lingers, do you want to just share a little bit about, you know, how that works? Because I know there's a couple of questions about that, and then I want to talk about what's needed on the node to make that final stake. But do you want to talk just a little bit about how the ETH earning on RPL works, and then I'll ask a question about then perhaps changing the allocation to have some of the ETH rewards go to the PDAO. But maybe just a refresher first on megapools for us all.
Yeah, so currently there's I'll pull up the actual numbers, but there is, hang on, let me just, so currently I need to double check those numbers. Anyway, I can get the actual numbers later on. So, so the whole, let's just say that's a whole bunch of megapool validators that have gone through the queue, the rocket pool queues anyway, and they've done their first deposit. They've waited the validator queue time, and then a lot of them have done their second deposit now. And so these megapool validators are essentially just waiting for activation. So their second deposit has gone in, but it takes the validator queue time for it to actually activate. They will actually activate, I think it's around the start of July. So so at the start of July, those nodes will start, those validators will start to activate. In terms of voter share, it will be that they will start earning consensus rewards, and they will start earning execution rewards, obviously. And so as that kind of like accumulates, that'll accumulate, and on the next reward interval, so which will probably be at the end of July or kind of near the end of July, in that reward interval, the voter share will be distributed. So with voter share, what happens is the ETH, a portion of the commission goes into a bucket, And then at the reward interval time, that bucket is then distributed amongst the RPL staking node operators within who are staking megapools. That will be distributed amongst the RPL staking node operators who are staking megapools. So that ETH will be distributed via them. So that process, that will kind of like kickstart that RPL receiving essentially protocol revenue or protocol commission via that process. So that's kind of like the rough timeline for that.
Okay, and then let me just expand on that a little bit here. I'm kind of keeping an eye on on trading here a little bit in there, and so I guess one of the settings in there that right now is set for 0%, right, is to allocate part of the Megapool ETH rewards to the PDAO, right? It's set at 0%, and I just wonder, I know there's some conversations about also maybe it's time to adjust that, right? And part of the arguments is, okay, using a protocol's own token like RPL, even if we make the changes and direct the inflation rewards to just the PDAO / ODAO, right? It's still not really a external form of revenue, right? Basically we're just devaluing the token of RPL to fund the DAO's operations, right? But Rocket Pool, being a liquid staking or a staking protocol, right, actually can earn ETH rewards, right? So somebody else's earn, right, by the work we do in validating Ethereum, right? And part of those could be directed towards the DAO. And I wondered maybe if you could just talk a little bit about that as well too, right? Like where are we in that governance discussion? Is that as far as long as the RPL discussion? And if so, is that something that happens independently of Saturn too? But maybe kind of what's the situation on that one?
So I think that was raised in the scope discussion. I think the outcome of that was to kind of see how megapools kind of end up. You're talking about the commission structure, yes?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably it's a little bit chicken and egg, because we need on the mini pool side we don't have control over commission, right? Which is obviously the innovation in mega pools and Saturn in general, is that we have protocol-wide commission. We can adjust protocol commission to meet the market demands. But on the mini pool side, we don't have that. We don't have that benefit. So we need people in mega pools for it to really be effective. So we do have. So what I'm saying there is that we do actually have a little bit of time, because we need to get a reasonable amount of people over into mega pools before we actually do have control over the commission anyway. We could adjust the commission for mega pools, but it won't be necessarily that effective. So I think in the scoping discussion, it was essentially, let's focus on getting people over into mega pools, and then we'll kind of like adjust the commission going forward. Yeah, and I think we definitely need to have that conversation. I just think it's probably a conversation that's most likely to happen in the near future, rather than in the medium term, rather than the short term.
Yeah, got it. I think that makes sense, right? That even if you take a percentage of the commission rate and direct it towards the DAO, it's only going to be as effective as the amount of ETH staked in megapools, right? And that, hey, we don't really have any ETH right now staked until they start hitting the beacon chain with the full 32 ETH deposit, right? And then even then, it's going to take a period of time for it to kind of ramp up to a substantial enough level to make a difference. But I do think, um, just personally, I do think, kind of having both, they're both kind of intertwined and related, right? I know it is a chicken and the egg thing, but it does seem like if we're talking about, DAO funding and protocol funding, that it might be worth having both conversations simultaneously so people can have context and then vote appropriately between the two. Um, there is a question from Dr. Doofus. He's again without a mic here and there. That is, he does ask, is getting ETH out of the vault an official part of Saturn 2 now?
Yeah,
I don't know if you have context for that.
that's a great question. I think I might have missed it off the scope, so I will need to. Yes, I think that should be put into Saturn 2,
Can you
because
just a second? Like, what can you explain the question and
yeah,
then answer? I don't know if I follow up myself.
yeah. So if we in the future, if we change the commission structure so that the DAO, the protocol DAO, gets a certain amount of it, that is ETH, and we can from a technical perspective, we can send the ETH to the DAO, their account essentially within the protocol, but for them to actually access it, for them to actually spend it or set up like recurring payments or anything else, that's not implemented. So at the moment, it only does it for RPL. It doesn't do it for any RPL. It might be actually any ERC20. It just doesn't do it for native ETH. So that's what we'd need. That's what we would need to do. We would need to just implement that part. It's not a very difficult thing to do. It, in a I don't want to trivialize it too much, but it's almost a copy and paste, and then just change it a little bit. But we just need to go through and make sure that that's correct. Obviously, yeah, that is something that we need to add into Saturn 2 for the protocol DAO to be able to access the ETH.
You see a comment from Nashua in trading that we should get it. We should either write an RPIP for it, or we should amend an RPIP, I guess, to include it. But like, it's not technically on the list of RPIPs that are under consideration for inclusion. So we should just probably document what our decision is on it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we could update the DAO. So I think the DAO treasury management stuff is all in the PDAO on-chain voting RPIP. So we could adjust that, or we could create a different RPIP. But yeah, it doesn't really matter either way.
Okay. Any other topics on kind of governance that you want to cover before we kind of leave governance? And I also open this up for the community here. If you have questions about this, there's a few node operator things I also want to ask about. But Langers, anything before we leave the topic of governance or Saturn 2?
No, that's it. I think that should be good.
Okay, yeah, and everybody else, feel free to chime in with questions if you have it. I guess the one other question I have, just to switch to node operators for a second, is I guess it's always funny how you forget a couple of things, right? And how it plays out between testnet and mainnet. But I think we mentioned this last time that, like, I didn't fully understood that we had to get into the beacon chain twice, right? I get that there's a couple of queues in Rocket Pool. The first one is obviously the mega pool queue, right? And Steely has just an excellent kind of dashboard that allows you to figure out the length of time that you're in the regular queue, the regular megapull queue or the express megapull queue, right? But and then I realized, okay, then you also have the beacon chain queue, and our timing, it was just horrible, right? We had these, I think it was a month and a half or 2 month long wait to get to the beacon chain. But what I didn't realize is, well, that was just for the one ETH deposit, right? And then, of course, that was the hot fix, right? We had to extend that period of time, and but then once you make it to the end of that queue the first time, your software, the node software, is supposed to, I guess, generate a Merkle-like proof to show that you successfully deposited that one ETH. You've got a validator withdraw address, and it's pointed correctly to the mega pool, right? And then your node is supposed to then automatically do another transaction to, I guess, request the additional 31 ETH to complete your validator's balance of 32 ETH on the beacon chain, right? And so I guess there's a couple of things here. I noticed that for a while there, the node software, at least a number of folks that kind of aped in right at the beginning of the mega pool formation, their nodes were kind of working pretty hard time to generate these proofs. And Fornax was working on improving the node software. Any updates on that? Any comments? Is the team kind of watching that? How are our megapool formers doing? Is it all working pretty good?
Yeah, so maybe I'll tackle that part first. So yeah, in terms of the optimizations, I know I need to probably get an update from Fornax on that. So I know he's been working in support and making sure that people can do that second transaction. So yes, I know that he's been working on optimizations to make sure that that process is as streamlined as possible. I think, yeah, actually, I think he's been working with patches on that as well. So they've come up with a few different optimizations, and I don't know whether they're actually out yet or not, or whether they've been. I know they have been testing different options to see which one makes the most difference. So I know that's incoming, but I don't know if it's actually out yet. In terms of the double queue thing, so that, and I think I'll need to double check my notes on this one, but something changed in the last Ethereum release. So between us closing mini pools, so we would have noticed the issue if mini pools were open, and then is it Fulu, the last release? We would have noticed if mini pools were active at the time, because but it just so happened that we disabled mini pools, and then Fulu happened, and then we delivered mega pools. So it was actually a change in the last Ethereum release that kind of caused that. They changed the queue mechanism. Now, in most cases, so up until that point in time, that wouldn't have been an issue, because the even if we had megapools open after Fulu, because generally the entry queue has been quite short. But then Bitmine decided to deposit all their ETH, so then the whole thing got kind of like screwed up. So yeah, as you said, it was terrible timing and on both those parts, on the fact that they changed the deposit process, and we had Bitmine, and we wanted to do this migration. So it's just not great timing, to be honest.
Yeah, I see Nashua has posted Steely's dashboard, and I forgot about that till he posted it again. There's actually a monitoring tool on there, and he says that it looks like there's no large issues at the moment. So I think most nodes are automatically, detecting that the second proof is needed and then transmitting it correctly. But I just mentioned it here, maybe as a public service announcement, just, if you're our node operator and you're listening to this and you participated in a mega poll, it should be, in the past couple of weeks or maybe in the coming weeks, especially if you're in the first couple of days of mega polls, that you should be reaching that second proof, second submission transaction. So maybe check on your node if you haven't already, because I know at least in the initial days it was a little rough going, and the nodes needed a little bit of encouragement starting and stopping to go through. But as you said, I know Fornex has been working on some updates, and perhaps those are already out. But maybe just keep an eye on it.
I have done like a little quick scan of the smart node releases, and I don't see any like optimizations in there. So I think they're in development. They're not quite live yet.
Okay, yeah, good to know. Okay, any other topics? Let me just kind of pause here and see if there's questions from the community, or Nav. I also invite you if there's things from your perspective you want to bring forward. I guess one of the other questions I have for you, Langers, is you mentioned that you've been kind of doing two jobs and doing some of the business development work, and I guess that's because Grant had left the team to take another opportunity, right? Um, Anything in that area you want to kind of share with the community in there? I mean, it's certainly, I think, bear times out there, and then most protocols are just trying to kind of just survive the winter. But any good news that you're hearing from your perspective?
Yeah, from our perspective, we've been doing a lot of kind of outreach, mainly to the obviously. So how we've kind of like split the ecosystem stuff is Mav does a lot of the kind of like protocol relationships. So we've had some. He can probably go into a bit more depth, but we've had some good stuff with like Morpho and a few other kind of like protocols and like different chains and that sort of thing. So we're trying to with the relationships that we've already got, we're trying to activate them as kind of like co-marketing sort of outcomes. So Mav's been working on that. Oh, he's also been working on like an EF thread, something with the EF. So that's been going on for quite a while, but we're at a point now where the changes in the thread content is pretty much done, I think. So hopefully we can get that out soon. So he kind of like does that kind of like protocol side on ecosystem side, and I'm doing like the institutional side. So really it's been kind of doing a lot of outreach to fill our pipeline. As you can imagine, these pipelines are quite slow. We've got some good opportunities that are quite far along, but they need regular kind of like stoking and moving forward and that sort of thing. So so it's mainly doing outreach to get new contacts, developing the contacts that we do have, and then moving forward the ones that are more mature. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunity, to be honest, probably more than you expect in crypto winter. But those things do move very, very slowly. But yeah, we've got some good contacts now at like some of the big institutions, like the asset managers. We've got we're trying to lock down Bitmine in terms of like the on the DAT side. We've got actually now a couple of like ETP, like the exchange traded product side of things. We've got some good kind of like leads into those products now, and then just some other kind of like institutional adjacent sort of things as well. But yeah, no, it's actually going quite well. Yeah, we just got to kind of work through a lot of business numbers game. You do a lot of outreach, and then you get some back. Then you start developing those until you actually do get some sort of partnership or integration or that sort of thing. But we're definitely understanding the scope of the different players and that sort of thing better now, which is really good.
Excellent. Okay, well, I know we're reaching kind of the top of the hour here, and I think you've got your stand up, in 9 minutes here or so. But I guess any last things from you, Langers, that you feel is important to kind of share with the community, or any alpha on topics that we haven't discussed yet?
Alpha. No, I think the alpha is that the community is working really well. I think in terms of the roadmap development that's going really well. As I said before, BizDev is going reasonably well as well, and yeah, I think we're moving forward, and the other thing that I'm kind of like working on is when I'm talking to like these institutional contacts is what we've got coming with Saturn 2, particularly with like redemptions, because that is a key thing. Well, I think Saturn 2 is really important from their perspective because it kind of brings like two things. The first thing is redemptions, which enable predictive exiting of their positions. Not predictive, predictable exits for their positions. So that is definitely something that they are very interested in. The other thing is obviously from the performance side. If we can maximize our yield potential, then again that's definitely something that they're interested in as well. So yeah, so that's definitely something that I'm trying to hook them in with in some senses, but that's definitely something that they're very interested in.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for sharing, and Langers, thank you for coming on and spending the time with us. I guess just one last pause here to see if anyone has a last minute question before we let you go. All right. Well, I'm not hearing any, so I'll let you go. And Mav, thank you very much for arranging these calls here. It sounds like you've got some ideas for some upcoming ones, and for everyone else, I look forward to chatting with you a little bit in trading. If you're going to be at, I'll be at the ETH conference in New York in early June here. It's coming up probably in about 3 to 4 weeks or something, or maybe it's only 3 weeks away. I don't know. It's coming up pretty quick, but it's certainly one that was, I think looking forward to about a year ago. A lot of interest, especially among kind of corporations and financial institutions and the U.S. Now kind of in the the frozen tundra of this crypto winter. It'd be interesting to see, but I'll report back with what I learned from that conference, and hopefully we'll start seeing more and more use cases from the kind of more TradFi entities. But it should be an interesting conference there. I know they still have tickets, and I think I saw Patches might be there. But yeah, I'll let you know what I hear from that conference.
Cool. That sounds awesome.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, and lots of good information here. And I guess the next thing is onwards and upwards. I look forward to the kind of movements on the governance to kind of make some of these changes with our inflation and our kind of sustainability of the budget. I think those are probably just as important as the technical work that the team and Nashua and others have been doing. So yeah, looks forward. Always something going on in this ecosystem.
Yeah, it's going awesome. Thank you very much, Ken.
All right. Have fun. Say hi to the team.
Will do. Will do.
Everyone else, I'll talk to y'all in trading here.
See you, everybody. Cheers.